Alright y'all, today's going to be a little bit of a different video. Not really sure how to start it off. It's going to be a story of something that happened actually 2 years ago. You probably got something from the title of the video, but I haven't talked about this event in the last 2 years, at least on YouTube. I've told a few people, but that's about it. So this video could get very rambly and long. I'm not sure how long it's going to be. So not gonna be eating food, and yeah, it could get a little bit dark as well. So just some warnings there. If you don't want to watch, it's okay. I decided to tell this story because a couple of reasons. One, well, all right, here we go, starting the ramble. Earlier this month, I did a live stream, and in that live stream, somebody asked me, hey, why did you move to Korea in the first place? And I gave them some answers. You know, I was interested in blah, 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 blah. And I had forgotten. It took me a few seconds to realize and remember that one of the main reasons I came here was because I wanted to meet my biological family, my biological parents. And 2 years ago, I guess, quote unquote, met my biological father, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Quick summary of my adoption story, if you don't know. I was born here in South Korea, and I had an older biological brother, about a year or two older than me, and when I was 5 months old, I was immediately put up for adoption. I went to a foster family. When I was 5 months old, I was sent to my family in America, grew up there, and then came back to Korea in, 2012. I came a couple times just to explore and see what I could do here, and just to figure out what's going on over here, you know? When I first started YouTube in 2016, I did a couple adoption videos, actually, that some of them got a lot of views. And so that is kind of one of the reasons why I figured I would make this video for people who were curious about any updates of that story. This might be the final update, I don't know. But yeah, anyway, this didn't happen recently, so some of the events might be a little bit fuzzy and hazy, but this happened almost exactly 2 years ago. I didn't talk about it at the time. I mentioned in a regular YouTube video at the time that I was kind of in a weird mental space, and I think I kind of still am, but yeah, I feel like enough time has passed that I can talk about it without, you know, being disrespectful, I hope. Anyway, let's get into it. This was August of 2022, and I think I had filmed a video that day, and I was chilling on my couch at home, and it was about 5 p.m., and I got a call from my biological brother. Now, my biological brother I had met several years before, one time, and we ate Korean barbecue, we drank a lot of soju, and it was a pretty good time, I can't lie. It was, you know, there was a communication barrier, but the soju helped with that, you know, for both of us. And we kind of just, you know, it was a very interesting experience, but I had met my biological brother before that, and we had talked. Maybe he would send a message maybe once a year or every couple of years, just saying like Happy New Year or something like that. Or like, we should meet sometime. I was like, yeah, for sure. And then we just never ended up meeting. Just kind of one of those things. But he hit me up out of the blue. He called me, which was just random. And he basically said that our biological father was in the hospital, and if I can come to see him, it would be very good because his condition was very bad. So this was during COVID times, and he was saying that in order to get into the hospital, he was in the ICU, I had to take a PCR test. And these are these COVID tests. They had like a quick one that would take, a relatively quick one, I guess, that would take 3 hours. They had this whole thing set up outside the hospital, I guess, and you could get a quick PCR test, wait 3 hours, get your results, and if they're negative, then you could go in to the hospital. And at 5 p.m. when he called, apparently the hospital that my biological father was at, they were done doing PCR tests for the day. I guess they only did it for certain hours of the day. And so he was basically saying that you can come tomorrow, but it might be too late. If it's too late, you can just kind of come for the funeral. It's really not looking good. And I was like, is he awake? Is he like, what's going on? And he said he's unconscious, but he responds to stimuli. And so all I really know. And I said, well, since I can't get in tonight, I was going to go with my wife. She was at work and she was going to come home and we were going to go. It would have been a really late night, I guess, but we decided that since we can't get the PCR test, we called multiple hospitals to see if we could get a PCR test from a different hospital. None of them were accepting it. So we decided to wait and just see what happened in the morning. And then if I could go the next day, I would go the next day. So next day rolls around. I think I drank a little bit that night, or I drank the previous night or something, but whatever it was, I had this like bad hangover just in my head though. I had a bad headache, and this headache continued for like a whole week, and it was really bogus. But yeah, so let's see. The next morning, he called again, or I was texting him. I still have all the chat logs, and I was looking at him again earlier, and we were talking in the morning. He was like, all right, yeah, can you come? I'm going to go there soon too. He's got to get another PCR test, and I'd have to get one. And so I was like, all right, I'll go around noon. And it's going to take 3 hours. So I had to go there, I guess, take the test, sit around outside the hospital for 3 hours, and then go in. And I was prepared to do that. The hospital was on the complete opposite side of Seoul. It was on the outskirts, and it was like an hour or an hour and a half taxi ride away. So this is going to be a long day, but I'm like, whatever. I mean, this is like, I guess if I'm going to do it, I better do it now. It's the only chance I'm going to get. So I got in a taxi, went over to the hospital. And the funny thing is, it's just not really important, but I remember the hospital, it was in a place that's on the outskirts. No one goes there. Well, obviously some people do, but I had actually been there several times because my wife used to live there. When we were first dating, I had gone to visit her, to see her a few times, and we passed by some of the same roads, and it was like right by where she used to live, and I was like, well, that's random. But anyway, I won't go to the hospital and expecting to take this PCR test and wait around, but immediately I walk up, I text, I'm here. I'm like standing outside the door, and they're like, yo, I talked to the people, you don't need a PCR test. It's really urgent. It's pretty much now or never. He's on his like last breaths. So you better come in real quick. And he was with like a doctor or a nurse, or I think a doctor. And they're like, both like, whatever, F the test, just come in. And so I was like, okay. We went up to like the second, third floor of this big hospital. We immediately went to the computer, and the doctor sat me down, and she spoke like fluent English. And I later found out that she, for some reason, like, it's so random, that she lived in New Jersey or something like that. And I don't know if they like picked her for, I don't know what was going on, but like that was very helpful because my biological brother, he can read and write English pretty well. Speaking and communicating, not so well. So she was basically telling me everything about what was going on with my biological father. She showed me a bunch of charts and this medical stuff on the computer. And I was in a daze, can't lie. I remember his liver was completely effed. But I don't think I don't know exactly the reason, but I think it was multiple reasons. I think his body was just shutting down. And so she shows me all this, and then talking to people, and finally we get confirmation that we can go into the ICU to see him. And never been into an ICU before, I don't think. But we go in, And this is the second time I'm meeting my biological brother, by the way, and it's after 5, 6, 7 years. A little bit awkward, obviously, but everything's just so urgent. You don't have time to even process like the awkwardness of it. So we go into these doors, go down into the ICU, go through like multiple doors, and then we put on these like disposable like plastic smocks or something, and these like transparent face guards, and we're all masked up because I guess everyone's still, well, I guess you would have to do that anyway, maybe, I don't know, but everyone was real paranoid about COVID over here. Just being as safe as possible, I guess. And we went in to this ICU, probably from my memory, 15 people, just a lot of, elderly people kind of just laying in these beds. And it was, I've been in nursing homes before to see my family. And anyway, it was something new to me and kind of jarring. And then I had never seen my biological father before. I've seen a couple pictures, but that's it. So we walk over and pull the curtain and we see him. So seeing him in person for the first time, he was quite a bit older. I think he was in his 80s. I'm 34. So right now, at least, I guess I was about 32 at the time. Yeah, I was 32 at the time. And anyway, he's just, he doesn't look good. His condition looks pretty effed up. And he's connected to all types of stuff. He is completely just knocked out. His one thing that, I don't know if this is getting into too much detail, his legs were really messed up. I don't know what that was from. Didn't really ask, but it looked like maybe he had been in a wheelchair for years and his legs just didn't work. I'm not really sure, but they were really messed up. But I don't think that was the main issue. And it was just a crazy experience to see that. Obviously, I was, looking back, maybe I should have tried to make contact before this had happened, instead of just waiting around until it's kind of too late. Because, he's on his, he's, let's just say maybe even lucky that he could have survived into that next day when I got there. And so my biological brother you can tell he is very rattled, very desperate. I think he had gone to the hospital a couple of days before, and he had been there since, and his condition just completely plummeted, and my biological father's condition. And so he had been at the hospital, and then it just got crazy, and that's when he contacted me. Sorry, this is very all over the place. But yeah, so we're looking at him, and he's like kind of really pleading. Like, I've never really seen anything like it before. I've never seen someone so desperate, right up in person. I mean, we're all in the vicinity of this small little area, and he's just obviously in Korean pleading to wake up, to respond. It's me. Like, Father, it's me. I brought, Byungjin, which is my Korean name, and no response, and this goes on for, at this point, I'm like stunned. I'm like kind of completely flustered because I'm just sitting there like, what do I do? What am I supposed to do in this situation? The son, my biological brother, is basically hysterical here, and I've never met the father, and only met the guy once, like I have to keep repeating, but I'm just like, what do I even do here? My Korean sucks. Even if I did communicate in the same language, what do I even say? But eventually, after a few minutes, he's like, hey, man, you should greet him and talk to him. And there was a text that he had sent earlier basically saying that if I could charm him in a way, then maybe he would wake up. I think it was slightly delusional. I think that he was so desperate that he thought that maybe if I showed up, something would connect and he would wake up. I don't know. But you could tell that he was almost at this point like, hey man, please try to like charm him or like touch him, hug him, greet him, talk to him. And so after seeing how desperate he was, I'm the type of person who, I guess it depends, but when I see someone right in my face who's extremely emotional, it affects me too, even if like I don't even know the guy. But I'm getting like choked up a little bit, and I go up and in a feeble ass voice, just like, hey, in Korean, like, hello, this is BenDeen, my Korean name, and it's nice to meet you. It's basically what I said. Probably touched his hand or something. No response, obviously. I mean, he's pretty much gone, and I say I don't know what to do. He comes back in, just switch, positions around the bed here. And he's like, pleading, just going back to that pleading, please wake up, blah, blah, blah. And at a certain point, we're just standing there, and he starts like convulsing in some type of way, and they say, leave now. Go wait outside these main doors. We're going to leave. Probably 10 young, maybe, I don't know if they're interns, residents, I don't know who they are. They come running in, and they look super excited from my memory. What I remember is they were like super eager to treat or to assess what was going on. And I think he was having a heart attack. And so they kind of got that under control somehow. I don't know. I was waiting in the other room with my biological brother. And we were waiting out there for another, 15, 30 minutes. All the young, medical students or residents, I don't know, they come out and they're like, all right, you can go back in. Like, he's, I guess, as stable as possible as you can be at that point. So we go back in there, kind of do the same thing. I can't remember, can't give you a number on how long we were actually in the ICU. I want to say, I do have like screenshots and like calls of about how long I was there, but later on in the story, it keeps going on after this, but we go back in and maybe an hour, maybe less, 30 minutes, I don't know, we're in there doing the same thing. I'm like kind of weeping, like uncontrollably crying at this point. And my biological brother is crying too, and you could just see the looks on people's faces, the doctors or whoever, the nurses or the people who were in there. It was a very kind of weird moment in time there. Eventually, maybe after 45 minutes or whatever, I say I need a little break. I don't know what I'm doing here. I didn't really talk to him again. I was just kind of standing there like crying and looking at him. And he's like, okay, I'm going to stay in here. And I walk out of 3 sets of doors to this other area where there's actually a seat I can sit on. Sit on the seat, wait there for about, again, time is a little bit fuzzy, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And after 20 minutes, my biological brother comes out and said, he's gone, passed away. And I think we all knew it was coming, especially since like I saw this guy have a heart attack or some kind of I don't know, cardiac arrest. I don't know what it was, but some kind of major condition. And the doctor was there telling me in English, like, yeah, it's the whole time, it's bad, right? So he comes out and is like, yeah, he's gone. So I think I go back into the ICU, like see the deceased body, like confirm it. I think there were like there's some kind of like, I don't know, what do you call it? Some official secretary, like some medical computer area in the ICU or something where we had to like record all this stuff, time of death, whatnot, and to confirm and everything. I remember back, so this is like my third time in the ICU, I guess. He calls our biological mother, who is, from everything I've heard multiple times, is just mentally unstable. I don't know exactly what it is, but extremely mentally unstable. Her and my biological father had been together. Sorry if this is just all over the place, but they had still been together, and I think all three of them were living in the same house. But I don't know if they were married, but they were all together. She had this mental thing, and that's why I was never able to meet her. Probably never will. She refused to go to hospitals. It was a mental thing. I don't know exactly what it was, but she refused to go to hospitals. She refused to show up to see him, her husband, or at least partner, who was dying. I'm like, I came here. You can, whatever. So he calls her, and I can hear her voice through it wasn't a speakerphone, but I could still hear her voice, and him talking to her, him saying that he passed away. Her response, I remember vaguely hearing just at least the tone of her voice, and it did sound pretty off, But anyway, so we do what we have to do in the ICU. Then we go out, and we go back to those chairs where I was waiting at. And apparently, so now everything in Korea happens so fast. And almost, not everything, but a lot of things. And almost, if you're coming from a different culture, almost disrespectfully fast. So, and what I mean by that is after we like declare and whatever the time of death and official death, it's immediately, okay, funeral arrangements. Let's get them set up ASAP. Funerals are a little bit strange, at least to me in Korea. It's just how they do it over here. From what I know, I'm not an expert, but they are held immediately after death in a room or this wing of a hospital, of the hospital, or a hospital. And this hospital that we were at, a hospital might have, 5 different, in the funeral wing, they might have 5 different sections for 5 different people and families. And they're large sections. They have a room where you kind of do this greeting and this bow of respect, I guess. And then there's another room that you can eat in. And that's part of funerals, how they work. And they last for 3 days. And yeah, it's completely different, and it just happens immediately. So we were informed that the hospital that we were at, that he passed away in, had no more spots available for him to have the funeral process at. It was all booked up. So we're sitting in those chairs outside the ICU, and he's calling all nearby hospitals. Basically anything. And around the 3rd or 4th call, he finds a hospital that has an available spot for the funeral. And so at this point, we wheel the body out. We take it downstairs to this, I don't know what this area was. I guess it was connected to the funeral area wing. I don't know if it was a morgue. I don't know. But, we wheeled him down there. And on, a stretcher or whatever. What do you call it? A bed with wheels. Get down there and end up, I guess they're treating him in some way. I'm not sure exactly what they're doing. But I'm not there. My biological brother and I are in the lobby area of this particular hospital's waiting area. for their funeral wing. And we're just sitting there, and I'm looking around, and you can see just other families. There's one room there, and families coming in and out, and there's another room there, families coming in and out. And it just so, like, it feels a little bit cheap, rushed. I don't know. At this point, my mind's still just in a haze. So we sit there for a long time. That was like almost an hour or an hour and a half, maybe. We're just sitting there, and I'm not really sure what we're waiting for. We make as much small talk as we can at this point. It's over. There's nothing completely urgent at this time, and we're just sitting there, and I'm with my biological brother, and we're just kind of chatting, making small talk, I guess. I tell him about Ring Lady, and who's now my wife, and how I'm planning on marrying her, and stuff like that. I remember asking him about how he's been doing. Most of this is going on through Google Translate on his phone. A lot of silence as well, just sitting there for 5 minutes at a time, just staring off into space. Just waiting to basically, we have to get some official document or something, and then take the body from that hospital to the other hospital that we made the funeral arrangements at. So we're just waiting around. I'm not really sure what's going on, but after an hour and a half, we basically say, okay, you can take him to this other hospital now. And I should point out that this funeral part of the hospital that we were at looked at least nice. Like it was brightly lit, but it was like somewhat modern and clean. And so my biological brother and I have to take the body immediately and go to this other hospital. So we sign the document, we go back, we're running all around this hospital at this point. We go get the body, and we wheel him out there's another official guy there. Us three, we wheel him out through these underground passages, up like through a garage door, and then there's like an underground like car, like a parking ramp or whatever, into the back of an waiting ambulance. And basically, they're like, where do you want to sit? There's the ambulances here. I feel like they're pretty small. They're like a van type of deal. So he gets in the back through the trunk. I get in through the side door. They wheel in the body, and his head is literally right here. And going back, stretching back, and he's in the back, my biological brother. And it was just completely surreal, and just this whole thing was. But I guess, I've never been this close to death before, I would say. And yeah, so we take this ambulance ride to the other hospital. And I gotta say, it was kind of cool because the ambulance turned on its lights. I don't remember if it turned on the sirens, but it turned on its lights, and cars were kind of parting, and we were going as quick as possible through the streets of Seoul. And I remember thinking, wow, I've seen a lot of ambulances with lights on. I wonder how many of those ambulances in Seoul were ones that weren't taking someone who was alive in an emergency situation to a hospital or something, but ones who were taking a deceased body to another place, like we were doing right there. But it was probably a 20-minute ride, complete silence, just, yeah. And we get to this other hospital, and really dingy. We pull in through it had this another underground ramp, go down there, the driver helps us unload. Well, he's not just a driver. Sorry if I'm getting any of this terminology wrong. Might be he's probably like EMS. I'm not really sure. Don't want to be disrespectful to anybody, but he helps us out. He gets the body out of the ambulance. We wheel it into this new hospital, into the funeral wing of this hospital in the basement, And it's dark, it's cold, it's dingy, it's old, it's looking bad. They take the body a separate way. Last time I saw the body. And we go into this room with what stuck out to me, with a guy who looked like a guy straight out of an anime, for lack of a better term. Super, like, tall, skinny, kind of, his skin was like sunk into his bones. I think he was wearing into his skull. I think he was wearing a 3-piece suit, like old glasses, weird hairstyle. And it was just like, wow, that's kind of creepy, but extremely fitting for this new hospital that we're at, which is, like I said, very dingy. And we go into this, like, yeah, this freaking cluttered, dingy, bogus office that he's in. And now it's time to arrange all the preparations for what kind of service do you want, meal plans. So everyone who comes to visit during this 3-day funeral, what kind of meal do you want to serve? What kind of this do you want? What kind of that? Price options, like you're selecting options on a car. And just very matter of fact, I'm understanding mostly what is going on. At this point, all they're just talking Korean, and I'm just kind of sitting there. And they figure something out. Probably one of the cheapest plans that they have available, because I am aware that that family does not have much money. So, yeah, we were in that room for 20 minutes or 30, whatever, to figure out all the arrangements for how they want the things. They give us a tour of, there's a hallway with, like, basically a small room on this side and a bigger room on this side. And there's like 5 of them. There's one in use, or 1 or 2 in use, and they're like, okay, you can pick from this one, that one, or that one, I guess. Because it's not something that happens a week later or whatever, it happens immediately. So he picks a room, we inspect them all, he picks a room, and then, yeah, so he does all this stuff. I can't remember if I paid for anything at this point, but I'm pretty sure I paid for some fee, small fee, if it was the ambulance fee or something. At least I tried to pay for something. But at this point, my brain is completely fried, and I just don't know what to do at this point. For my biological brother, it's probably way harder on him. Obviously, it's his actual father who he had grown up with. And he, as I guess, since my biological mother refused to go to hospitals at all, he had the sole responsibility to be the one who had to live in that dingy basement for 3 days straight. That's how it works. So, like I said, there's 2 rooms. One of them is kind of it's set up with the portrait of the deceased, and like kind of this, I don't even know how to describe it. It's a very small room. And then right across the hall is a slightly bigger room with tables on the floor and where you can eat and drink soju and beer if you want to. So he has to stay there for 3 days. I think there's a little room attached to this room where he can sleep. The body, I don't think, is in that room. I think it's somewhere else. But he is basically sleeping here for 3 days because anyone who wants to come visit, whether they're from the area or from somewhere else, they have to take a day off of work or whatever to drive all the way up and then see him drive back. And so he has to be there 24/7. And at this point, I'm like, man, I'm fried. I already had this like hangover, this freaking terrible headache going on. And I'm like, it's around 5 to 5:30 p.m. based on my screenshots I had taken. And so I'd probably this whole ordeal probably lasted, well, the taxi ride took an hour and a half, maybe 4 or 5 hours. So yeah, like I said, I'm fried. I'm like, I think I should go. He's like, the funeral starts immediately that night, and it lasts for 3 more days. I said, I'll come on, maybe it doesn't start that night, maybe it starts the next night. Again, some of the details might not be 100%, but I'm not fudging anything here. So I say I will go to the funeral tomorrow. I gotta go home. I just gotta like process, just like unravel what just happened. Decompress, I guess, would be a better way to say that. So yeah, I go back home. I don't really remember much of anything that happened after getting back. I told my wife, who was just ring lady back then, everything that happened that day. And I don't really remember anything until we went to the funeral the next night, which was interesting. I do remember one thing that happened in between that time. My biological brother was like, there's a custom, like old traditional Korean custom that you're gonna have to do when you get here. And if you don't know how to do it, I'm sure your girlfriend will be able to teach you how to do it. And so that's one thing that I learned during that time. I'll explain that here in a second. So my wife and I, girlfriend at the time, get to the hospital around, 6, 7 o'clock the next day. Go in, pass a whole line of people who I think are his extended family visiting. Probably, I don't know if they know who I am. I think gossip probably spreads quick here. I'm guessing they might have known who I was. I'm not sure, but we pass a bunch of people, then go in, and in the room with the portrait and everything, you have to do this full bow, multiple full bows. I'm talking head to the ground, hands on the head, forehead, head to the ground multiple times. And that's what I learned how to do. Hopefully I did it right. And we did that. It took 1 minute. Then we immediately went out to the other room across the hall, and we ate Korean food. It was just meager Korean, mostly side dishes from what I remember. We got soju, and I drank, and I probably drank the night before. I probably was drinking every night at that point, even though I had this hangover and this bad headache going on. And damn, I've been recording for a minute. Where was I? Yeah, we ate and drank there. There was one other table there's probably 5 other tables in the thing. One was occupied by, I think, my biological brother's friends who were there to support him, just shooting glances because they know who I am. He had told them, I'm assuming. And they're just trying to investigate. Oh, wow, that's our friend's biological brother who got put up for adoption. That's pretty wild. Maybe he didn't tell them who I was, but I'm sure he did. I'm not sure. Just guessing. So we eat, sit there for a while, drink a bottle of soju, and then we go back out, say another greeting to, at this point, this is the first time that my biological brother and ring lady, my wife, can have a small talk and an actual greeting, because the one in the other room is so formal. There's no time for any small talk. It's very formal. Then they kind of chatted for 5 minutes. I chatted, and again, it always happens. It's like, hey, yeah, after I get everything cleared up, let's meet up again. It's like, yeah, for sure. I haven't met him since, but we basically parted ways. Ring lady, my wife and I left, and we drank a little bit more, and then went home. And I probably, yeah, like I said, I don't know, I probably drank for a week straight. Not like super anything crazy, but just enough to like maintain this constant headache that was going on. And by the end of it, a few days later, I was like mentally pretty effed up. Not gonna lie. I don't know if I should save this for another story, because it's already been going on for I've already been recording for a long time. But I will say that, yeah, my mental state was pretty messed up, where I would get like really bad panic attacks. So, yeah, I think I'll go into that later. I don't think it's really related, completely related to this story. Maybe it is, but I've had panic attacks a couple before. So I don't think this is what completely, but these ones were constant, like. So anyway, yeah, that's basically the end of the story. We attended the funeral, and then that's basically the last I ever saw. Well, you know, as far as I know, my biological brother still lives around. I could call him up and meet him if I want to. I probably should. I'm the type of person who's like, you know, I'll wait for you to do it. And I think we're both that type of person, you know. Interestingly enough, we do kind of share some similarities in some ways. I feel like you can find similarities in everybody, but like some ones that you're like, damn, I wonder if that's like genetics, straight up genetics. And I'm not talking physical features. He's a lot bigger, taller than me. So that's the last I had to really deal with any of it. I didn't have to, everything on my part was taken care of, and I was done, and I did what I had to do. The whole time he was saying like, you don't have to come. He's like, I'd appreciate it if you'd come to the funeral. He wasn't demanding of anything, you know, but he's like, you know, I'd appreciate it, but I understand if you don't want to, but yeah. So anyway, I did what I thought I should do, and that was basically it. Never saw or heard of anything from that again. Still potentially struggling with like anxiety stuff. And I think I've always had some form of anxiety, but I think it definitely took a crazy turn after that incident. Like I said, I've probably always had anxiety, but I had in like 3 that I can remember panic attacks before this all happened. But they were once every few years. This one happened. This was like constant. And I'm not sure why. I think maybe it had something to do with how much I was drinking for that week and just the events that happened while in that time period and this headache that just wouldn't go away. I don't know, but like I said, maybe that's another story. Yeah, so basically that's the end of the story. And there's no real happy ending, I guess. I guess to loop back to the very beginning, when I did do that live stream and that person did ask me, hey, why did you initially move to Korea? And I was listing off reasons, you know, I was just curious about the culture. I kind of wanted to learn the language. And it took me a while to realize, oh yeah, the main reason, like legitimately the main reason I wanted to go to Korea, or one of the main reasons, was to meet my biological family, which I had completely forgotten about. So I think there was some closure already that has happened over the last 2 years. I don't think, like I said, I probably will not get a chance to meet my biological mother. And if I do, it'll probably be attending her funeral. But yeah, there was, so in my mind though, I'm pretty much resigned to the fact that I won't meet her. And even if I did, it would go probably very poorly. And so that kind of chapter has almost been kind of closed in my head. And back to the live stream thing, I forgot about it. And so maybe that's some kind of evidence that there is some kind of closure for that part of my life, I guess. But obviously I'm still dealing with some kind of stuff. So that's why, you know, just to wrap this thing up, maybe there is some anxiety that I still have and maybe some closure that I still need to close. And selfishly, that's one of the reasons why I'm making this video. I also wanted to, like I said, a lot of people watched those earlier adoption videos, which are no longer on the channel, but if people also want some kind of closure, and because they were left basically in an open book situation, maybe you would find this helpful as well. Although maybe closure is not the right word for y'all. Just some kind of like ending to the story. And also, if you can like relate or get anything from this story that's positive, hopefully not negative, then that would be worth it to me. If anyone could pick up something, and I can see already, some people saying like, well, both sides I can see. Why are you, saying your private life, your personal stories? I mean, I think I already listed a couple reasons, but a lot of good stories are just stories in general. Bad stories are pretty personal a lot of times, This one isn't really exactly, it's personal to me how it happened to me, but it also happened to, my biological brother. He has his own story. But yeah, I think a lot of stories are personal until you tell them. And even then, they're still personal. Maybe not private anymore. But yeah, I can also see people saying like, oh, wow, that's such a crazy thing that happened or whatever. Or feeling sorry for me or anything like that. I don't want either side, honestly. I don't want anyone to go extreme on either side. Just be like, oh, well, thanks for sharing. I don't know. I don't really know what the reaction will be, to be fair. Can't predict it, but hopefully, maybe you can just get something out of it. Even if it is, hey, I should contact somebody before it's too late. I shouldn't wait around to get contacted. One of those classic scenarios, if you can pick up something like that, or anything, whatever it is. Oh, even just, the solidarity of, if you're going through something, other people are too. And, I think that can help. So there are multiple reasons why I made this video, and hopefully at least somebody out there can connect with it. Anyway, I've been rambling for way too long. I'm sorry for all of the just pauses, the the rambling, repeating of things, but I probably won't edit this too much and keep it up as just a candid retelling of the story that happened to me 2 years ago. And yeah, I think after this, maybe I'll probably do a regular normal video and get back to normal programming, but who knows, every once in a while, maybe I will share a story without food or share something without food. I'm not sure. I'm not going to get into that now though. So anyway, I hope you got something from this video, and thank you for watching. Appreciate it. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.